before I tell you who I am now, I need to tell you who I was before I knew I was becoming her. So let me set the stage, and I will preface this by saying that my brain is basically like a window that has 47 tabs open, and I'm kind of all over the place. So forgive me if I jump around, but hang on for the ride because I promise that it'll all make sense eventually. Okay, so if you watched or listened to the story before the story episode, then you'll know at a high level that I have been with a company for over 15 years, and I found myself in a situation I didn't think I'd ever be in. I was being laid off due to an acquisition. So this is where I started kind of unraveling a little bit, right? I had been with this company for so long. I had decided I was going to be a lifer. I was going to work there till I retired. I was comfortable with the people, the culture, the expectations, everything was great. And then, out of nowhere, we get an email saying that we are being acquired by another company, asterisk, as long as it gets approved by all the regulators and the board and all that corporate stuff that nobody actually cares about. So Amy goes into panic mode, right? You're basically telling me that the entire life that I've built is never going to happen. It was like being on the Titanic when it's going down, realizing that there isn't going to be a lifeboat for me to take me to the acquiring company, but I didn't even get the string quartet to soften the blow. So naturally, my mind is racing all over the place, trying to figure everything out at once, which, by the way, is exhausting. But when I start looking back on everything that's unfolded since that moment that I got that email, it's actually kind of beautiful, okay? So let me bring you back, way back, and bring you up to speed on how I got here, okay? So I grew up in a small town in Michigan, pointing to my thumb because that's what Michigan people do. And I did what every kid does. Well, not every kid. I did what a lot of kids do. I went through school, I got to my senior year, I decided on a college, and that's where I was going. So in college, you do the prerequisites, but eventually you have to pick a major. And I had no idea who I wanted to be, right? I knew I was a creative person, but all of the creative jobs, actor, singer, comedian, author, all of those things felt like the dream that's only for special people, for somebody else. It wasn't going to be for me, so I might as well leave that behind and chase something stable. But the problem was, even stable jobs, they didn't call to me, and I had no idea what to do. So I ended up taking classes that I found interesting. And I ended up majoring in political science. And I have not one single time used that degree at all. It's literally just a line on my resume that says, hey, I was dedicated enough to do 4 years of college and come out the other side with a piece of paper. And so I graduated from college, and that was the moment where it's like, okay, I've done the thing, but now what? So I ended up applying for a job at Target. Now, you need to understand that being someone who grew up in the thumb, the closest Target was 45 minutes away, at least. So working at a Target kind of felt like, hey man, look at me. I am living big now. I'm working at a store that's only in like big cities. So I applied for a job as a team lead, and I got the job. And my role was to run the logistics team. We worked overnights. The team unloaded the product from the truck. We stocked the floor and then backstocked what was left. And it was good. It was a job. I was in my early 20s and it kind of fit with where I was in my life at that time. So after several years of crushing it, I was asked to go to open a new location a little way down the road. Okay. So that's the moment where young Amy, she's puffing out her chest and she's walking like this. And I was like, okay, so this is where I'm going. I'm going to open this new store. I'm going to climb that Target corporate ladder. Life is going to be good. So I'm at the store. I'm still doing the logistics job. I've got my team. They love me. We're productive. But there was one little catch. The manager that I reported to was straight out of college, younger than me, had no experience. How she got the job, I'm not really sure. But all I know is, for whatever reason, I got the feeling that she just didn't like me. And that's tough because, as you'll soon find out, I'm the kind of person, I'm a people pleaser. If people don't like me, it's like a personal attack that hits like an actual physical punch, right? Gut punch. But no matter what I did, this manager would nitpick everything I did to oblivion. And I will mention, Oblivion is one of my favorite video games of all time. But that didn't feel good, getting nitpicked to oblivion. Anyways, eventually, she had nitpicked so much that I was let go. And this was the first time in my adult life that I realized that being responsible and having a job is tough. Being an adult is nothing like what we imagine when we're kids. You know, that whole, I can't wait till I'm grown up so I can do what I want. That's true, but also not true, because as an adult, sure, you can do what you want, but you also have bills to pay and responsibilities and a fridge to stock and a roof to put over your head. And so all the stuff that you want to do doesn't always make it into your life until now, at least for me anyways. So I worked at Target. I got laid off. I got laid off in October. I decided after working so many years in retail, I was going to take the holiday season off. I was going to decompress. I was going to check in with myself, and I was going to be ready come the next year to find that new job, that new calling, that new career. But the holidays came and went, and the time kept ticking away. And I still hadn't figured out what I wanted to do. I still hadn't figured out who I was, but I did figure out that I couldn't stay unemployed forever. So I ended up applying for a job at a regional bank to work as a customer service agent in their call center, because helping people is my superpower. So I'm dressed in my interview best. I go down, I'm sitting for the interview, I'm feeling good. And the hiring manager asks me a question that I should have been prepared for, because anybody who's sat through any kind of regular interview knows that the question is coming. Why do you want to work here? So I should have seen this coming, but instead it hit me like a deer in the headlights kind of moment, right? And being from Michigan, where we have a lot of deer that just haven't figured out that cars are dangerous, that hits hard. So without thinking, knowing that the answer I gave couldn't be, I need money, you have money, I have customer service experience, you need customer service experience. It seems like a pretty clear match. That doesn't usually go over well. Companies don't want to hear that the only reason you want to work there is because you need a paycheck. So here's what I said instead. If your company is good enough to have their name on my favorite team's ballpark, you're good enough for me. That was authentic, real Amy coming out. And yet, as soon as it came out of my mouth, reasonable, adult, grown-up, responsible Amy was like, ugh, who says that? Who says that? That's a terrible answer for an interview question. So the interview wraps up and I'm driving home saying, well, I know I didn't get that job. I just totally blew it with that stupid answer. And later that day or the next day, as I was still mulling over my bad decisions that stick with you like a pimple you just can't get rid of, I got a call from the hiring manager offering me the job. I had let a part of myself slip out, a part that had quietly been coming back out since I had been unemployed because I didn't have the job to kind of stifle me into being who, normal adults are supposed to be, for lack of a better word. I said something that's authentically me, and I got the job anyways. So throughout my career, again, spanning over 15 years, I started in customer service at the call center. Then I moved into sales, helping people discover new products that would enhance their banking experience. And then I became a team lead, and I had an opportunity to start shaping the future of the other new agents that were hiring in and sharing my wisdom, sharing my experience with them and setting them up for success. And that's when I realized helping people is my calling. It's what I'm meant to do. So while all the other team leads that I work with took the traditional path and worked their way up to manager, managing a team of agents, I chose a different path. I said, I want to be in HR because I want to be a trainer. So when a job opened up because somebody retired, I took my chances, I applied for the job, and I got it. And it was validating. It was like, yes. This is your path. You're doing the right thing. Well, I started training a department that I knew absolutely nothing about, international trade services. Still couldn't tell you what the heck that's about, even today. And I started doubting myself because I had gone from someone that was a subject matter expert, training other people to do the job that I already knew how to do so well, to moving to a department where I was supposed to train people on something that I had no idea what I was talking about. And that was scary because I thought, I'm just going to step into this role and everything's going to fall into place and click, and it just didn't happen that way. Luckily for me, though, about a little less than a year after I had been in the corporate learning department, I was asked if I would be interested in going back to the call center where it all began to train the call center agents. It was like a sign. Absolutely. Yes, I want to do that. And so that's what I did. And having been an agent, having been through the training, I knew exactly what could be cut, what should be kept, what should be enforced a little bit more, new things that we could talk about. And I just iterated with my ride or die partner, Dustin. We iterated these different versions of the training until we got to the point where it's like, this is it. This is, the creme de la creme of this course. And it felt good. But it also kind of started getting that yearning inside of me. I've spent years training people to do a great job in a role that I've already been. I've worked with my partner to adapt the training and make changes based on real-time feedback so that it's exactly what it needs to be for people to be successful. And that felt awesome. But it also felt like I've kind of mastered this a little bit, and I am ready for something different, for a new challenge, okay? So I ended up applying for a job in the technology department. And I know you're sitting there going, okay, let me connect these dots because this is weird. She went from call center customer service, sales team lead, corporate learning, maybe a natural progression. Now she's going to technology. And not just technology. I was going to technology so that I could meander the third-party vendor relationships with the vendors we use for contingent labor. I know. I have no idea how I ended up there either. But the story continues. So I'm in that role, and that role helped me grow. It helped me figure things out. But it also made me stifle creative Amy a little bit more and have professional Amy always available, always on time, always helpful, thorough, efficient, ready to go. And that's who I was. And as you recall from earlier this episode, that's who I planned to stay. Because after 15 years, I was comfortable and I knew what my life was going to look like. But then I get hit with the plot twist of the acquisition and the layoff. And all of a sudden, my entire world flips upside down and I have to figure out something different. So what do? Well, I do what all humans do. I panic. Because I'm used to safe. I'm used to familiar. I'm used to what I know. And that's not there. It's like walking a tightrope without a safety net, which is terrifying because falling from great heights is like one of my biggest fears. So let's kind of talk about like what happens in your brain, right? So humans have this tendency of normalizing or convincing themselves that dissatisfaction, and I'm not talking full on, I hate my job, but just maybe let's call it settling. That settling is okay because it's safe and it's comfortable and it's familiar, and that's what we cling to, okay? But I needed something that was going to fulfill me, and there were still parts of creative Amy that kind of kept sneaking out without me realizing, even when I was in that highly corporate role where I felt like creative Amy just didn't really belong anymore. So I wasn't unhappy, but I was unexpressed because I didn't have an outlet for all the creativity that kept simmering down inside of me. I wasn't stuck. I was just muted. I was somewhere that I didn't realize at the time that I didn't belong. And I wasn't lost. I was on a very clear path. It just wasn't the right path for the person who I really am when I stop and look inside. So I wasn't waiting for a sign, but a sign is what I got. And that sign was an email saying that we were being acquired by a bigger bank. So let's widen the lens a little bit and kind of look at this from the bigger picture. So this whole journey of me figuring myself out and becoming a new person, nay, the person I've always been, but letting her out and embracing who she is, that didn't start from some big chaotic moment. It started from an email that forced me to stop and start thinking and noticing the parts of me that were crying for attention, that were begging to be let out for the longest time. It was a shift in my awareness, a shift saying, yes, you're good at corporate life. You're good at being adult. You're responsible. People can rely on you. But your true passion, your true calling is being creative and telling stories and connecting with people in a way that only I can do. So that's where this whole season is going. You get to join me on my journey of figuring out who I am and becoming a new person in real time. How cool is that? So here's what I'm going to leave you with. I didn't change my entire life in one day, but one day I realized I was finally ready to. Stick around. You're going to love episode 2.